Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. And if you're a true General Hospital fan, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get started with today's video. General Hospital, GH, spoilers suggest that Lulu Spencer, Alexa Havens-Bruning, may eventually step forward to clear Isaiah Gannon's, Andy Wilson, name in relation to Jordan Ashford's, Tanisha Harper, crash. After all, the disagreement over Curtis Ashford's Donnell Turner claims that he was the other driver is harming not only Isaiah's professional life, but also his romance with Portia Robinson, Brooke Kerr. Isaiah has grown tired of hearing it from both Curtis and Jordan. Fans are aware that the two men got into a violent fight on the Metro Court Terrace a few weeks ago. Curtis assaulted Isaiah after the surgeon verbally provoked him. The incident resulted in a hand injury, which precludes Isaiah from performing his job. Curtis' main defense is that he was provoked, as well as Isaiah's suspected involvement in Jordan's crash. After all, Jordan could have died, and the two sorely required assistance, not the driver fleeing the scene. Fortunately, Valentine Cassadine, James Patrick Stewart, appeared, but if he hadn't, the outcome would have been different. While fans understand that Isaiah was not the other driver, Curtis feels he was, which has rattled his cage. In truth, Isaiah had an alibi that night, but he was unable to reveal it. Jordan was doing a doctor's visit at Lulu's house when he crashed. Rocco Falconeri, Finn Carr, had just shot WSB director Ross Cullum, Andrew Hawks, and his mother was desperate to keep it quiet. Rocco suffered a terrible gun-related injury on his hand, which had become infected. Lulu contacted Isaiah in order to avoid raising suspicions at the hospital. As Lucky Spencer's, Jonathan Jackson, best friend, Isaiah was ready and prepared to heal Rocco, keep his injury hidden, and assist with medication prescriptions. He also pledged not to tell anyone where he had gone that night, something he felt obligated to do because of client-doctor confidentiality. Still, Cullum's shooting is over. The WSB couldn't care less now, and even Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, was released from detention. Lulu has been in her own little world for long, focusing on Rocco, but now that he's on the other side of everything, she might run across Isaiah. He could update her on his life, and when she realizes how much drama he's been through because he couldn't come forward, she might want to make amends. Maybe Lulu agrees to testify in court about Isaiah's presence at her home to help his case. However, her confession might be significantly less formal, such as simply confronting Curtis and Jordan. According to General Hospital teasers, the truth regarding Isaiah's whereabouts during the accident will eventually be revealed, and both Curtis and Jordan will be devastated by their continuous accusations. In the busy heart of Port Charles, where secrets lingered like shadows in the city's historic neighborhoods, Lulu Spencer found herself in the center of a storm that threatened to upend lives once more. The Spencers had never been strangers to chaos, but this time the stakes were impossibly high. Rocco Falconeri, her son from Dante, had been carrying a load that was far too great for his small shoulders. The night of the crash, which left Jordan Ashford fighting for her life and Curtis Ashford overwhelmed by wrath, had turned out to be a watershed moment not only for the Ashfords, but also for Lulu's family in unexpected ways. Lulu paced through her living room, the dim light of a solitary lamp creating long shadows on the aged furnishings. Rocco sat on the couch, his bandaged hand gently cradled in his lap. The infection had set in following the incident with Cullum, a desperate effort by a youngster attempting to protect someone he cared about. Britt had gotten involved, entangled the family even further, but Lulu's top objective was to protect her son. Hospitals meant questions, records, and possible exposure. That's why she contacted Isaiah Gannon in a time of quiet desperation. Isaiah, the competent physician fresh to Port Charles with a strange past linked to distant conflicts and diamond mines in Africa, had returned her call. He arrived at night, his black SUV silently drawing up to the hut where Lulu had sought refuge with Rocco. His assessment was comprehensive and caring. He examined the area, recommended antibiotics, and gave stern but courteous guidance on how to watch for worsening symptoms. "This stays between us," he swore, feeling the weight of Lulu's secret. Nobody could tell he had been there. Not the police, not the hospital personnel, and certainly not Curtis, who had already looked him with mistrust. But Port Charles has eyes everywhere. Curtis and Jordan's vehicle was thrown off Route 91 in a terrible crash, and traffic cameras lined the road. Whispers about a hit-and-run spread like wildfire throughout the hospital halls and the PCPD station. Curtis, still in recovery and consumed by grief over Jordan's serious condition, had become hooked on Isaiah. The timing was too perfect in his mind. Isaiah's automobile was spotted on the road that night, making him the leading suspect. Accusations flew, including reports that Isaiah had drove past the crash without stopping to help, and that his vehicle matched descriptions from the scene. Lulu understood the truth. Isaiah had not caused the accident. He had been with her, treating Rocco, but had been delayed just enough by the commotion of the evening, which included Danny and Charlotte's car difficulties nearby. However, releasing that alibi would expose Rocco's wounded, the shooting, Jason's cover-up, and the family's preparations to depart Port Charles. It was a huge revelation with the potential to demolish everything. Days became an anxious waiting game. At the PCPD, Dante Falconeri, Rocco's father and a dedicated detective, was divided between duty and family. He studied film and led alongside colleagues, his jaw stiffening whenever Isaiah's name came up. Laura Collins, Lulu's mother and mayor, attempted to mediate from her office, urging calm despite the rising tension. But Curtis refused to let it go. He faced Isaiah directly, his voice full of accusation. "You were present that night. You drove past them and did nothing." Isaiah stood firm, defending his innocence without jeopardizing Lulu's trust. The tension between the two guys crackled, threatening to erupt into something much worse. Lulu struggled with her conscience in the peaceful hours. She had always been a fighter, a woman who put herself in risk for those she cared about, whether it was exposing corruption as a journalist or supporting Dante through numerous crises. Her coma had taken years away from her, but reawaken had revived her fierce, protective instincts. Rocco was her top focus. Charlotte, her daughter with Valentine Cassadine, brought another layer of drama, with custody fights looming and Valentine's mysterious homecoming stirring her old resentments. Yet here she was, clutching a key that may free an innocent man while jeopardizing her son's future. The courtroom loomed as the investigation progressed. ADA Turner sought for answers, interviewing witnesses, and assembling timetables. Willow Corinthos became involved as well, with her car's GPS directing her to the scene. However, suspicions of framing lingered around other participants such as Brooklyn. Personal vendettas collided with legal scrutiny in Port Charles, creating a volatile situation. Lulu knew she couldn't remain silent indefinitely. It was critical to Isaiah's freedom and possibly Jordan's justice. Lulu sat down with Dante one evening as rain fell on the Spencer house's windows. The chat was raw and honest, as it had been throughout their on-again, off-again romance. "I called Isaiah that night," she admitted, her voice calm despite the trembling in her hands. Dante listened, his investigative mind racing over the ramifications. He recognized the bind. Protecting Rocco endangered Isaiah. But the truth had a way of surfacing in Port Charles, usually at the worst possible time. Dante encouraged caution, but Lulu's determination solidified. She would testify. It wasn't just about clearing Isaiah, it was about doing the right thing in the moral murky areas that defined their existence. The following day, she contacted the authorities and requested an official statement. The word traveled swiftly through the hospital grapevine. Portia Robinson, Isaiah's colleague and sometimes confidant, expressed quiet relief mixed with concern. Elizabeth Weber offered encouraging words, understanding all too well the importance of family secrets. The hearing took place under gloomy clouds. The courtroom was buzzing with expectation. Curtis sat stiffly, his eyes narrowing as Isaiah took his place. Lawyers exchanged eyes, sensing a shift. When Lulu was called to the stand, the room became silent. She pledged to tell the truth, and her gaze briefly met Isaiah's, a nonverbal acknowledgement of the risk she was undertaking. "Lulu Spencer, could you tell the court where Dr. Isaiah Gannon was on the night of the Curtis Jordan Ashford crash?" The ADA inquired, her tone measured. Lulu took a long breath, her thoughts returning to that panicked call, the drive to the cottage, and Isaiah's calm professionalism while he cared for Rocco. "He was with me," she explained firmly. I'm at my location, treating my son's injury. He arrived after I contacted him privately. He was not engaged in the crash. He couldn't have been because he was aiding my family at the time. Gasps echoed across the gallery. Curtis rose to his feet, his face a mask of disbelief and betrayal. This is a lie. She is covering for him. Security intervened as the murmurs became louder. Dante watched from behind, his face a mix of joy and concern about what this meant for Rocco. The judge demanded order. Cross-examination ensued, with lawyers scrutinizing the specifics. Lulu remained strong, detailing the timetable without getting into the details of Rocco's wound. She painted a picture of a dedicated doctor responding to a medical emergency in secrecy, restricted by a confidentiality agreement. Isaiah's alibi acquired credibility, but questions persisted about the precise timing and whether he could have been on the road earlier. Outside the courtroom, the consequences were immediate. Reporters crowded, cameras flashing, as Lulu exited with Dante by her side. "Mrs. Spencer, does this indicate your son was injured? What is being hidden?" one shouted. She ignored them, intent on getting home. Rocco waited nervously, with Britt hovering around despite the familial drama. The boy's eyes widened as he realized what his mother had done. "Mom, you didn't have to." Lulu drew him into a hug.
"I did."
"We confront everything together." Later that afternoon, Isaiah approached her at the hospital, his eyes filled with thanks. "You didn't have to risk everything," he added quietly. Lulu shrugged, a faint smile breaking through her tiredness. "Poor Charles needs more people like you, not in prison for something you didn't do. Furthermore, secrets have the ability to ruin us here. I've learned that the hard way." Their chat drew on his past, the escape from mercenaries, the summons to assist Lucky Spencer, and the uncertainty upon arrival in town. Isaiah had faced danger before, but this brush with suspicion had put him to the test. Curtis, meantime, struggled with the testimony. He expressed his doubts in a heated conversation with Jordan at his bedside. "She is shielding him because of her own disaster. How can we know she isn't lying?" Jordan, frail but determined, urged him to let the evidence speak. The catastrophe had altered her, pushing her to focus on life, family, and their community's fragile connections. Portia mediated where she could, her difficult relationship with both men adding to the drama. As weeks passed, the inquiry shifted. New leads developed, pointing to other cars and potential motives. Brooklyn faced her own scrutiny, guilt weighing on her as Chase demanded answers regarding the night's events. Willow's name cleaned up, shifting the focus. Lulu's testimony bought Isaiah some time, but it also brought the Falconeri Spencer family back into the spotlight. Dante fought relentlessly to protect Rocco, while Laura balanced marital duties with emotional strife. Lulu discovered moments of calm strength in unexpected places. Visits with her mother Laura provided perspective and reminders of the Spencer tradition of perseverance. Charlotte's presence, albeit complicated by Valentine's influence, kept her grounded. The girls' split loyalties challenged friendships, but Lulu battled to keep things stable. Even Carly, embroiled in her own problems, offered hesitant support, the cousins' combustible dynamic giving way to common family issues. Lulu's disclosure has far-reaching consequences. Hospital employees whispered in the break rooms. Patrons at the Floating Rib debated the case over drinks. Sonny Corinthos, ever the spectator from his compound, weighed in gently through allies, his guardianship of Dante's family unflinching. Jason Morgan, who was already involved in the cover-up, remained a silent guardian, ready to step in if necessary. Despite the drama, healing strands formed. Rocco's hand improved after receiving adequate care, thanks to Isaiah's immediate intervention. The youngster became more open, and his friendship with Dante grew stronger as they discussed responsibility and consequences. Britt, despite previous betrayals, found a precarious position on the outskirts, her connection to Rocco apparent. Isaiah returned to General Hospital with a newfound sense of purpose. His encounters with Portia became more intense, with glimpses of something more personal emerging behind professional civility. Curtis gradually came to accept the alibi, albeit trust would take time to repair. Jordan's recuperation came in stops and turns, but her survival served as a beacon of hope. Lulu mused on it all while taking a solo walk along the Port Charles waterfront. The city lights reflected on the lake, symbolizing the intricacies of life there. Beautiful, but dangerous. She testified not for fame or attention, but because quiet would have been too costly. In a town where huge secrets defined existence, her decision revealed a road forward, one in which truth, no matter how terrible, promised forgiveness. The crash's mystery lingered, with unexplained elements suggesting additional surprises. Who was genuinely responsible? What other witnesses could emerge? Port Charles never slept, nor did its stories. Lulu Spencer had added a chapter that no one would soon forget, her testimony a watershed moment in a story of love, devotion, and the unwavering quest of justice. As families reconciled and suspicions dissipated, the stage was prepared for the next chapter in General Hospital's ongoing drama. The tension in Port Charles reaches a breaking point as new details about the tragic incident threaten to change everything. Just as everyone thought they knew what happened that tragic night, a surprising revelation emerges that might dramatically change the investigation and the lives of everyone involved. Lulu Spencer has spent weeks attempting to fit together the missing parts of the puzzle. She's been more observant since waking up and is reclaiming her place in Port Charles. Many people underestimated her, believing she was only interested in reconnecting with her family and restoring her life. Lulu, on the other hand, has discreetly been paying attention to every discrepancy, strange assertion, and out-of-place detail. As whispers circulate across Port Charles, one name keeps surfacing: Isaiah. Questions concerning his location on the night of the accident have proven impossible to dismiss. Some argue that he has been totally truthful, while others suspect he is concealing something substantial. The uncertainty has caused fractures among friends and family members, leaving everyone wondering who can be trusted. When Lulu recalls a vital detail from that evening, she finds herself suddenly in the eye of the storm. At first, the recollection seemed inconsequential, but as she puts everything together, she realizes that what she knows could influence the course of the investigation. Determined to find out the truth, Lulu begins reliving the events of that night. She talks to various persons who were present and compares their stories. The more she listens, the more persuaded she is that someone has not spoken the whole truth. Certain timelines do not correspond, and the gaps in Isaiah's account grow more difficult to explain. Meanwhile, Isaiah feels pressure coming from all directions. He has tried to maintain a cool and composed demeanor, but those closest to him can sense his mounting anxiousness. Every query about the crash appears to make him more anxious. It's unclear whether he's hiding a dark secret or is merely afraid of being falsely implicated. As officials continue their investigation, a formal hearing is scheduled to review the facts and testimony surrounding the tragedy. The hearing immediately becomes one of the most widely discussed occurrences in Port Charles history. Residents assemble, eager to learn what new information may surface. Nobody expects Lulu to take the stand. Her choice sends shockwaves throughout the community. Even those closest to her are astounded. Some worry that she is endangering herself, while others are concerned about the ramifications of what she may expose. Nonetheless, Lulu remains determined. She understands that the truth, no matter how difficult, should be heard. When questioned, Lulu quietly proceeds to tell what she remembers. The room falls hushed as she explains that she witnessed something peculiar on the night of the crash. According to her evidence, Isaiah might not have been where he claimed to be. Gasps erupted around the courtroom. Lulu admits that she clearly recalls seeing Isaiah near a spot that contradicts his earlier statements. She initially rejected the memory because the circumstances of that evening were so chaotic. However, when additional details emerged over time, her memory grew stronger and more difficult to dismiss. Her testimony immediately prompts major questions. If Isaiah was actually somewhere else that night, why would he lie about it? Was he protecting anyone? Was he involved in an incident unconnected to the crash? Or does his altered history indicate a much deeper relationship to what occurred? Isaiah's countenance changes considerably when Lulu talks. He looked stunned, as if he had never expected anyone to remember seeing him. His silence merely increases conjecture among those present. Several people start to reevaluate their assumptions. Friends who previously defended Isaiah are now wondering if there is more to the tale than they knew. Others become increasingly skeptical, assuming that Lulu's testimony will reveal a long-held secret. Tension rises in the room as everyone waits for Isaiah's reaction. When finally granted the chance to speak, Isaiah appears conflicted. He denies any direct role in the crash, but he struggles to explain the gaps in his timeline. His hesitancy raises even more doubts. He eventually acknowledges that he concealed certain information because he was afraid of the ramifications of telling the truth. However, he maintains that his motivations were personal and had nothing to do with the event itself. His comment merely raises more questions. What secret was so important that he would risk becoming a suspect? Lulu intently observes Isaiah as he speaks. She suspects he is still not being completely honest. Her instincts tell her that another piece of the puzzle is still concealed. Outside the hearing, Port Charles is awash with gossip. Conversations pervade every area of the town. Some residents commend Lulu for her bravery, feeling she has made a significant step toward justice. Others criticize her, claiming that ancient memories can be unreliable and may unfairly harm Isaiah's reputation. The dispute also begins to have an impact on personal ties. Individuals who were once allies now find themselves on opposing sides of an issue. Long-standing friendships become strained, and family members disagree on who to believe. The emotional impact of the case extends well beyond the courtroom. As the investigation progresses, fresh evidence emerges. Authorities discover evidence that partially confirms Lulu's recollection. Surveillance records and witness testimony indicate that Isaiah's timeline may contain contradictions. Although the evidence does not establish guilt, it does confirm that significant questions remain unanswered. Isaiah understands that keeping secrets is no longer possible. Facing rising pressure, he ultimately chooses to expose some of the facts. He admits that he met with someone just before the crash. The conference was meant to be private because it covered very personal concerns that could touch several people in Port Charles. However, he refuses to reveal the identity of the individual. This fresh information causes another frenzy.